The shrill ring of my phone pierced the quiet of my kitchen, startling me so badly I nearly dropped my mug of chamomile tea. It was 11:30 p.m., far too late for a social call. My stomach clenched as I fumbled to answer. "Clara? It's about Peter. There's been an accident." My brother's name, coupled with accident, sent ice through my veins. "What happened? Is he okay?" "He's alive, but it's bad. They've taken him to Mercy General. Can you get there?" I was already grabbing my keys. "I'm on my way." The drive to the hospital was a blur of streetlights and racing thoughts. Peter and I had always been close, despite our occasional squabbles. He was my rock, my confidant. The thought of losing him was unbearable. At the hospital, I found Emily, my sister-in-law, pacing in the waiting room. Her mascara had left dark streaks down her cheeks. "Clara, thank God you're here," she said, throwing her arms around me. I hugged her back, pushing down my own panic. "What happened?" Emily pulled away, wiping her eyes. "He fell down the stairs at home. They think he might have had a stroke first, but they're not sure. He's in surgery now." My mind reeled. Peter was only 41, far too young for a stroke. "Have you called Mom and Dad?" Emily nodded. "They're on their way, but it'll take them a few hours to get here from Florida." A doctor approached us then, his face grave. "Mrs. Lawson, I'm Dr. Reeves. Your husband is out of surgery, but he's in critical condition. We've induced a coma to help reduce brain swelling." Emily gasped, and I grabbed her hand. "Can we see him?" I asked. Dr. Reeves nodded. "Briefly. Follow me." Peter looked small and fragile in the hospital bed, tubes and wires snaking from his body. I felt tears welling up as I took his hand. "Oh, Pete," I whispered. "What happened to you?" Emily stood on the other side of the bed, her face a mask of worry. "The kids are with my sister," she said softly. "I should probably call and update her." I nodded, not taking my eyes off Peter. "Go ahead. I'll stay with him." As soon as Emily left the room, I leaned in close to my brother. "Pete, if you can hear me, you need to fight. We need you here." My eyes fell on Peter's jacket, draped over a chair nearby. A folded piece of paper was peeking out of the pocket. Curiosity got the better of me, and I reached for it. The note was in Peter's handwriting, but the words made no sense. "Clara, if anything happens to me, look in the attic. The truth is hidden there. Be careful who you trust." My heart raced as I read the cryptic message. What truth? And why would Peter write such a thing? I quickly folded the note and slipped it into my own pocket, just as Emily returned. "Any change?" she asked hopefully. I shook my head, guilt gnawing at me for hiding the note. "No, he's still the same." Emily sighed, sinking into a chair. "I just don't understand how this could have happened. He was fine when I left for my book club meeting." Something in her tone made me pause. Was that a hint of defensiveness? Before I could ponder it further, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my husband, Alex. "Everything okay? You left without saying anything." I felt a pang of guilt. In my rush to get to the hospital, I hadn't even told Alex where I was going. "At the hospital." I texted back. "Peter had an accident. It's bad." His reply was immediate. "On my way." As I put my phone away, I caught Emily watching me with an odd expression. It was gone in an instant, replaced by worry for Peter. But as I settled in for a long night at the hospital, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Peter's mysterious note burned in my pocket, a harbinger of secrets yet to be revealed. What truth was hidden in the attic? And more importantly, who couldn't I trust? The steady beep of Peter's heart monitor filled the hospital room as I sat by his bedside, my mind drifting to happier times. I remembered summers at our grandparents' lake house, Peter and I chasing fireflies as the sun dipped below the horizon. Those carefree days seemed a lifetime ago now. "Penny, for your thoughts?" Emily's voice startled me from my reverie. I forced a smile. "Just remembering better days." Emily nodded, her eyes never quite meeting mine. "Peter always said you two were inseparable as kids." "We were," I agreed, studying her face. Something about her demeanor felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. The weight of Peter's note in my pocket seemed to grow heavier. Just then, Alex arrived, looking harried. "Clara, I came as soon as I could. How is he?" I filled him in on Peter's condition, watching as he and Emily exchanged a look I couldn't quite decipher. A seed of doubt took root in my mind. "Emily," I said, keeping my voice casual, "I was thinking of stopping by your house to pick up some things for Peter. Maybe look for any important papers he might need." A flicker of panic crossed her face before she composed herself. Oh, I don't think that's necessary. I can handle it. Alex jumped in. I'm sure Emily's got it under control, Clara. No need to worry about that now. Their eagerness to keep me away from the house only fueled my suspicions. I smiled tightly. Of course, just trying to help. As the night wore on, I found myself watching Emily more closely. The ways she fidgeted with her wedding ring, her hushed conversations with Alex in the hallway, it all felt wrong somehow. When Emily stepped out to make a call, I turned to Alex. Don't you think Emily's acting strange? He frowned. She's worried about her husband, Clara. We all are. It's more than that, I insisted. And why are you two so adamant about me not going to their house? Alex's expression hardened. What are you implying? Before I could respond, my parents burst into the room, faces etched with worry. The conversation with Alex would have to wait. As Mom fussed over Peter and Dad spoke with the doctors, I slipped out to get some air. In the quiet hospital garden, I pulled out Peter's note, reading it again. The truth is hidden there. Be careful who you trust. Who couldn't I trust? Emily? Alex? The thought of my husband being involved in whatever this was made my stomach churn. Lost in thought, I didn't notice Emily approach until she spoke. What's that? I quickly pocketed the note. Nothing important. Emily's eyes narrowed. You know, Clara, I've always admired how close you and Peter are, but sometimes I wonder if you're a little too involved in our lives. Her words carried a subtle threat that sent a chill down my spine. He's my brother, Emily. Of course I'm involved. Just remember, she said, her voice low, family can be complicated. Sometimes it's best not to dig too deep. With that, she turned and walked away, leaving me stunned. The seed of doubt blossomed into full-blown suspicion. Back in Peter's room, I watched as Emily played the role of devoted wife, my parents none the wiser. Alex caught my eye, his expression unreadable. In that moment, I made a decision. I had to know what was in that attic, no matter the cost. Peter's life might depend on it. As everyone fussed over Peter, I slipped out, determination fueling my steps. I'd go to their house now while Emily was distracted. In the parking lot, I fumbled for my keys, my heart racing. A hand on my shoulder made me jump. Going somewhere? Alex asked, his voice tight with suspicion. I turned to face him, my resolve strengthening. I'm going to find out what's really going on, Alex. Are you going to stop me? His answer would determine everything. Alex's grip on my shoulder tightened. Clara, you're not thinking straight. Let's go back inside. I shrugged him off, anger bubbling up inside me. No, Alex, I'm thinking clearer than I have in years. What's going on? Why are you and Emily so determined to keep me away from Peter's house? His face hardened. You're being paranoid. Emily's worried about her husband and you're seeing conspiracies everywhere. Am I? I pulled out Peter's note. Then explain this. Alex's eyes widened as he read it. Where did you get that? From Peter's jacket. Now, are you going to tell me what's really happening, or do I need to find out for myself? He ran a hand through his hair, looking conflicted. Clara, please, just let this go. For all our sakes. His evasiveness only fueled my determination. I can't believe this. You're involved, aren't you? What are you and Emily hiding? Keep your voice down, Alex hissed, glancing around the parking lot. You don't understand what you're getting into. I laughed bitterly. Then explain it to me, Alex, because right now it looks like my husband and my sister-in-law are involved in something that put my brother in the hospital. Alex's face flushed with anger. You want to know the truth? Fine. Emily and we've been seeing each other. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. What? It's been going on for a while, he continued, his voice low. Peter found out. That's why he wrote that note. He was going to tell you. But then he conveniently had an accident, I finished, feeling sick. Alex's eyes widened. No, we had nothing to do with that. It was just a terrible coincidence. I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes. How can I believe anything you say now? Clara, please. He reached for me, but I stepped back. Don't touch me, I spat. How could you do this? To me, to Peter? It wasn't supposed to happen, Alex said, his voice pleading. We never meant to hurt anyone. Well, congratulations, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. You've succeeded spectacularly. Just then, Emily appeared at the hospital entrance. Her eyes darted between us, realization dawning on her face. What's going on? She asked, approaching cautiously. I turned to her, fury coursing through my veins. Why don't you ask your lover? Emily paled. Clara, I can explain. Save it. I cut her off. I don't want to hear your excuses. What I want to know is what really happened to my brother. Emily's eyes flashed with panic. It was an accident. You can't possibly think. I don't know what to think anymore, I interrupted, but I'm going to find out the truth, with or without your help. Alex stepped between us. Clara, you're upset. Let's not do anything rash. I laughed humorlessly. Rash? Like having an affair with your wife's sister-in-law? Or covering up whatever happened to Peter? We're not covering anything up, Emily insisted. Peter fell. That's all there is to it. But the fear in her eyes told a different story. I turned to Alex, my heart breaking. I want a separation. I can't even look at you right now. His face crumpled. Clara, please. We can work this out. Work what out? I asked, my voice rising. The fact that you've been lying to me for God knows how long? That you're somehow involved in whatever happened to my brother? You're jumping to conclusions, Alex said, his own anger flaring. If this is how little you trust me, maybe a separation is a good idea. His words hit me like a physical blow. Fine, I said, my voice cold. I'll be staying at Peter's house. Someone needs to look after his kids while their mother is otherwise occupied. Emily flinched at the barb. Clara, don't do this. Think of the family. I am thinking of the family, I retorted. The family you two seem intent on destroying. With that, I turned and walked to my car, ignoring their calls. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of them in my rearview mirror, standing close together, united in their deceit. My hands shook on the steering wheel as I headed towards Peter's house, determined to uncover the truth hidden in the attic. Whatever secrets lay there, I was ready to face them, no matter the cost. The key trembled in my hand as I unlocked Peter's front door. The house was eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos in my mind. I flicked on the lights, half expecting Emily or Alex to jump out and stop me. But I was alone, surrounded by the remnants of my brother's life. I made my way upstairs, Peter's note burning a hole in my pocket. The attic door loomed before me, a portal to truths I both craved and feared. With a deep breath, I turned the handle and stepped into the musty darkness. Fumbling for the light switch, I illuminated a cluttered space filled with boxes and forgotten memories. Where to start? I began rifling through the nearest stack, my heart pounding with each document I uncovered. Hours passed as I sifted through years of accumulated papers. Just as frustration threatened to overwhelm me, a small lockbox caught my eye. It was tucked behind an old suitcase, almost hidden from view. With shaking hands, I pried it open, gasping at its contents. Inside were photos, dozens of them, of Emily with Alex. The timestamps spanned years, long before Peter's accident. My stomach churned as I realized the depth of their deception, but it was the document beneath the photos that made my blood run cold. A life insurance policy for Peter, taken out just months ago, with Emily as the sole beneficiary. The amount was staggering. Oh God, I whispered, the pieces falling into place. This wasn't just an affair, it was something far more sinister. The sound of a car pulling up jolted me from my horrified trance. Peering out the attic window, I saw Emily's car in the driveway. Panic surged through me as I scrambled to replace the lockbox and erase any signs of my presence. I had just made it to the bottom of the attic stairs when the front door opened. Emily's voice called out, "Clara, are you here?" Forcing calm into my voice, I replied, "Up here. Just checking on some things for Peter." Emily appeared at the foot of the stairs, her face a mask of concern. "You shouldn't be here alone. Why don't you come back to the hospital?" I descended slowly, my mind racing. "I'm fine, Emily. Just needed some time to process everything." Her eyes darted to the attic door behind me. "Find anything interesting up there?" The loaded question hung in the air between us. I met her gaze steadily. Nothing worth mentioning. Yet. A flicker of something, fear, crossed her face before she composed herself. "Well, I'm here to pick up some things for Peter and to check on the kids. They're with my sister, but I thought I'd grab some of their favorite toys." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. As Emily busied herself gathering items, I retreated to the living room, my mind whirling with the implications of what I discovered. My phone buzzed, a text from Alex. "We need to talk. Please come home." Home. The word felt hollow now, tainted by lies and betrayal. I typed back a curt reply. "Nothing to discuss. I'm staying at Peter's." Emily's voice startled me. "Everything okay?" I looked up to find her watching me intently. Fine, I lied. Just updating Alex on the situation. She nodded, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. Clara, I know things are strained right now, but we're still family. If you need anything. The irony of her words nearly choked me. What I need, I said carefully, is for my brother to wake up and tell me what really happened that night. Emily paled slightly. We all want that, but the doctors say we need to be patient. As she turned to leave, a sudden resolve crystallized within me. I couldn't confront her now, not without more evidence. But I also couldn't let her and Alex continue their charade unchallenged. Emily, I called out, causing her to pause at the door. I'll be staying here to look after the kids. I'm sure you understand. Our eyes locked, an unspoken battle of wills. Finally, she nodded. Of course, that's very kind of you. As her car pulled away, I sank onto the couch, the weight of my discoveries pressing down on me. I knew what I had to do next, but the path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty. With trembling fingers, I dialed a number I never thought I'd use. Detective Johnson, it's Clara Lawson. I need to report a possible attempted murder. The days blurred together as I settled into a routine at Peter's house, caring for my niece and nephew while juggling hospital visits and clandestine meetings with Detective Johnson. The kids, Lily and Max, were a welcome distraction from the turmoil in my life, their innocence a stark contrast to the web of lies I was unraveling. One afternoon, as I helped Lily with her homework, my phone buzzed with a text from the detective. New information. Meet ASAP. My heart raced as I arranged for a neighbor to watch the kids. At the local diner, Detective Johnson slid a file across the table. We've been looking into Emily's financials, he said in a low voice. There's something you need to see. I flipped open the folder, my eyes widening at the contents. Bank statements showed large transfers from Emily's account to an offshore entity, starting just weeks before Peter's accident. This doesn't prove anything, I whispered, though hope flared in my chest. The detective leaned in. No, but it's suspicious. We're also looking into Alex's involvement. His alibi for the night of the accident is shaky at best. As I left the diner, my mind reeled with possibilities. I was so distracted that I almost missed the familiar car parked down the street, Alex's car. Anger and betrayal surged through me as I stormed over, rapping on the window. Alex jumped, then reluctantly rolled it down. What are you doing here? I demanded. He had the decency to look ashamed. I was worried about you, Clara. You haven't been returning my calls. So you decided to stalk me instead? Alex sighed. I saw you with that man. Who is he? I laughed bitterly. Now you're concerned about who I'm meeting. That's rich coming from you. His face hardened. What's that supposed to mean? It means I know, Alex. About the affair, about the money. What I don't know is how deeply you're involved in what happened to Peter. The color drained from his face. Clara, you've got it all wrong. Let me explain. But I was already walking away, my heart pounding. I couldn't bear to hear more lies. Back at Peter's house, I found Emily waiting on the porch, the kids playing in the yard. We need to talk, she said, her voice tight. I steeled myself, gesturing for her to come inside. In the kitchen, Emily paced nervously. I know you've been digging, she began, but you don't understand the whole picture. I crossed my arms. Then enlighten me. Emily took a deep breath. Peter and I, our marriage wasn't what it seemed. He had debts, Clara, dangerous ones. The money you found? It was to pay them off, to keep us safe. I stared at her, disbelief warring with a flicker of doubt. And the affair with Alex? She flinched. A mistake, one I deeply regret, but it has nothing to do with what happened to Peter. So you expect me to believe it's all just a coincidence? The affair, the money, Peter's accident? Emily's filled with tears. I know how it looks, but I swear, I had nothing to do with Peter's fall. I loved him, despite everything. As she spoke, I noticed something poking out of her purse, the corner of what looked like the lockbox I'd found in the attic. In that moment, everything crystallized. Emily wasn't here to explain. She was here to cover her tracks. Get out, I said, my voice shaking with fury. Emily blinked, taken aback. Clara, please. Get out now, or I swear I'll call the police this instant. She hesitated, then grabbed her purse and fled. As the door slammed behind her, I sank to the floor, overwhelmed by the weight of betrayal and lies. My phone buzzed. Another text from Detective Johnson. Breakthrough in the case. Need to meet immediately. I stared at the message, knowing that my next move would change everything. The truth was within reach, but at what cost? With trembling fingers, I typed my reply, "I'm ready. Let's end this." As I hit send, I knew there was no turning back. Whatever came next, I was prepared to face it head-on, for Peter, for the kids, and for the truth that had eluded us for far too long. The world seemed to spin around me as I sat in Detective Johnson's office, staring at the evidence laid out before us. Photos, financial records, and witness statements painted a damning picture of Emily and Alex's involvement in Peter's accident. "We have enough to bring them in for questioning," Johnson said, his voice grave. "But we need your statement to tie it all together." I nodded, my throat tight. "I'm ready." As I recounted everything I'd discovered, from the mysterious note to the hidden lockbox, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. The truth was finally coming to light, but at what cost to my family? Just as I finished my statement, my phone buzzed. It was a text from the hospital. "Peter's showing signs of waking up. Come immediately." My heart leapt. "I have to go," I told Johnson, already halfway out the door. At the hospital, I found my mother, Linda, already there, her face etched with worry and hope. "Clara, thank goodness you're here," she said, pulling me into a tight hug. We watched through the window as doctors swarmed around Peter's bed. His fingers twitched, then his eyelids fluttered. It was happening. He was waking up. As we waited anxiously, I filled Mom in on everything that had happened. Her face paled, then hardened with resolve. "Oh, Clara," she said, squeezing my hand. "You've been carrying this burden alone for too long, but not anymore. We'll face this together." Her words washed over me like a balm, easing some of the loneliness I'd been feeling. But our moment of connection was shattered by the arrival of Emily and Alex, bursting into the waiting room. "What's going on?" Emily demanded, her eyes darting between us and Peter's room. Before I could respond, Detective Johnson appeared behind them, flanked by 2 uniformed officers. "Emily Lawson, Alexander Lawson, you're under arrest for the attempted murder of Peter Lawson and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud." The next few minutes were chaos. Emily screamed denials while Alex went pale and silent. As the officers led them away, Emily's eyes locked on mine, filled with a mixture of hatred and fear. "This isn't over, Clara," she hissed. "You have no idea what you've done." I stood my ground, Mom's hand firm in mine. "No, Emily, you have no idea what you've done. To this family, to Peter, to those kids." As they disappeared down the hallway, a doctor emerged from Peter's room. "He's awake and asking for Clara." With shaking legs, I entered the room. Peter's eyes were open, though unfocused. When he saw me, a weak smile crossed his face. "Clara," he whispered, "you found it." I leaned in close. "Found what, Pete?" His voice was barely audible. "The truth. In the attic. But there's more. Danger." Before he could finish, his eyes rolled back and the monitors started blaring. Doctors and nurses rushed in, pushing me aside as they worked to stabilize him. I stumbled back into the hallway, my mind reeling. What more could there be? What danger was Peter trying to warn me about? Mom was there, steadying me. "What happened? What did he say?" I opened my mouth to respond, but movement at the end of the hall caught my eye. A figure in a hoodie was watching us, their face hidden in shadow. As our eyes met, they turned and ran. Without thinking, I took off after them, ignoring Mom's calls. I chased the figure down flights of stairs and out into the parking lot, my heart pounding. Just as I thought I'd lost them, a hand grabbed my arm, yanking me behind a parked van. I found myself face to face with a woman I'd never seen before, her eyes wild with fear. "Are you Clara?" she asked urgently. I nodded, too out of breath to speak. "Listen carefully," she said, glancing around nervously. "Emily and Alex aren't working alone. There's a bigger conspiracy at play, and you're in danger. We don't have much time." As she spoke, I saw a black SUV pull into the lot, its tinted windows hiding the occupants. The woman's grip on my arm tightened. "You have a choice to make, Clara. Run now and stay safe, or dive deeper and risk everything to uncover the whole truth. What's it going to be?" My heart pounded as I made my split-second decision. "I'm in. Tell me everything." The woman, who introduced herself as Sarah, quickly ushered me into her car. As we sped away from the hospital, she filled me in on a conspiracy that made my head spin. Emily and Alex were just pawns in a larger game involving corporate espionage and money laundering. Peter had stumbled upon evidence that could bring down an entire criminal network. That's why they tried to silence him, Sarah explained. And now they're after you. We arrived at a safe house where Sarah showed me files that corroborated her story. My mind reeled as I recognized names of family, friends, and business associates entangled in this web of deceit. Just then, my phone rang. It was Mom. "Clara, where are you? Emily's been released on bail and she's here at the house. She's demanding to see you." My blood ran cold. "Mom, listen carefully. You need to get out of there now. Go to Aunt Marge's and wait for my call." "Clara, what's going on? You're scaring me." "Please, Mom, trust me. I'll explain everything soon." After ensuring Mom was safe, Sarah and I formulated a plan. We needed to retrieve the final piece of evidence from Peter's attic. Evidence he had hinted at before losing consciousness again. As we approached Peter's house, I saw Emily's car in the driveway. Sarah handed me a small recording device. "Be careful. Get her to talk, but don't let on what you know." With trembling hands, I entered the house. Emily was in the living room, pacing like a caged animal. When she saw me, her eyes flashed with a mixture of relief and anger. "Clara, thank God, you have to help me. These accusations are insane. You know I would never hurt Peter." I steeled myself, remembering Sarah's advice. "Then explain the money transfers, Emily. Explain the affair with Alex." Her face crumpled. "It's not what you think. We were being blackmailed. There are people, powerful people, who—" Suddenly the front door burst open. Alex stormed in, his face a mask of fury. "Emily, shut up. You have no idea what you're dealing with." I backed away, my heart racing. "Alex, what are you doing here?" His eyes darted between Emily and me. "Cleaning up this mess. I'm sorry, Clara, but you've left me no choice." As he reached into his jacket, I saw the glint of a gun. Time seemed to slow down. I lunged for the nearest object, a heavy vase, and hurled it at him. The gun went off, the bullet splintering the wood beside my head. Emily screamed, diving for cover. I scrambled towards the stairs, Alex's footsteps thundering behind me. I reached the attic door, fumbling with the lock as another shot rang out. Finally inside, I frantically searched for Peter's hidden evidence. Where was it? The sound of Alex ascending the stairs spurred me on. Just as my hand closed around a small USB drive tucked behind a loose floorboard, the attic door flew open. Alex stood there, gun trained on me, his eyes cold. "Hand it over, Clara. Now." I clutched the drive to my chest. "Why, Alex? How could you be involved in this?" His laugh was hollow. "You have no idea how deep this goes. The money, the power, it's beyond anything you can imagine." As he stepped closer, I heard sirens in the distance. Alex's head whipped towards the sound, momentarily distracted. It was now or never. I charged at him, catching him off guard. We grappled for the gun, our struggle bringing us dangerously close to the attic window. With a final, desperate shove, I felt Alex lose his balance. Time seemed to stand still as I watched him fall, his eyes wide with shock. The sickening thud that followed would haunt me forever. Shaking uncontrollably, I made my way downstairs to find Sarah and the police bursting in. Emily was nowhere to be seen. As the officers swarmed the house, Sarah approached me. "It's over, Clara. You did it." But as I handed over the USB drive, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was far from over. The cost had been too high, the revelations too earth-shattering. As I watched the chaos unfold around me, one question burned in my mind. Where do we go from here? The courtroom buzzed with tension as I took the stand, my mother's encouraging nod from the gallery steeling my resolve. This was it, the moment of truth that would expose the web of lies and deceit that had nearly destroyed our family. As the prosecutor guided me through my testimony, I recounted every shocking detail. The affair, the conspiracy, the attempt on Peter's life. With each revelation, I watched Emily's face contort with a mixture of rage and desperation. "And what did you find on the USB drive, Miss Lawson?" the prosecutor asked. I took a deep breath. "Financial records proving that Emily and Alex were part of a larger criminal organization. They were laundering money through Peter's company, and when he discovered it, they tried to silence him." Emily leapt to her feet. "She's lying. Clara's always been jealous of me, of my relationship with Peter." The judge called for order as Emily's outburst echoed through the courtroom. As she was restrained, our eyes met. In that moment, I saw not just anger, but fear. The fear of a cornered animal. After I stepped down, Mom took the stand. Her testimony about the changes she'd observed in Peter and Emily's relationship, and the suspicious behavior leading up to the accident further solidified our case. As the trial concluded and we awaited the verdict, Mom squeezed my hand. "No matter what happens, Clara, I'm proud of you. We've done the right thing." The jury's decision was swift and unanimous, guilty on all counts. As Emily was led away, her mask of innocence finally crumbled. "You'll regret this, Clara," she screamed. "You have no idea what you've done." In the days that followed, the full extent of the conspiracy came to light. Respected community members were arrested, businesses were shuttered, and our quiet town was left reeling from the scandal. Through it all, Mom and I stood strong, supporting each other and helping Peter through his recovery. His memory of the accident was still hazy, but with each passing day, he grew stronger. One evening as we sat on the porch of our childhood home, Peter turned to me. "Clara, I can't thank you enough for what you've done. You saved my life and you saved our family." I smiled, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. "We saved each other, Pete. That's what family does." Mom joined us carrying a tray of lemonade. "My brave children," she said, her eyes misty. "I always knew you were fighters, but you've shown more strength than I ever imagined." As we sat there watching the sunset, I reflected on the tumultuous journey we'd been through. The pain, the betrayal, the fear, it had all led to this moment of peace and unity. "What happens now?" Peter asked, voicing the question we'd all been pondering. I took a sip of lemonade, considering. "We rebuild, we heal, and we move forward together." Mom nodded, her face resolute. "And we remember the lessons we've learned. Trust your instincts, stand up for what's right, and never underestimate the power of family." In that moment, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Despite everything we'd been through, our family had emerged stronger, our bonds unbreakable. As the stars began to twinkle in the twilight sky, I made a silent vow. We would face whatever challenges came our way with the same courage and determination that had brought us through this ordeal. The road ahead might be uncertain, but one thing was clear. Together, we could weather any storm. "To family," I said, raising my glass. "To family?" Mom and Peter echoed, their voices filled with love and hope. As we clinked our glasses together, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The secrets were out, the truth had prevailed, and our family stood united. Whatever the future held, we would face it head-on, stronger and wiser than ever before. The end of this chapter marked not just the conclusion of a harrowing ordeal, but the beginning of a new journey, one of healing, growth, and unshakable family bonds. As the night deepened around us, I knew that the strength we'd found in each other would guide us through whatever lay ahead. Our family's story was far from over. It was just beginning anew.